Welcome to AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown. I'm Aaron Dean. Right now, I'm here to guide you through the biggest stories of the day. Here's our pick for number 4.
With what little they can carry, they try to flee Khan Yunis to safer ground. That ground doesn't exist in Gaza. Israeli forces, intensifying their offensive against Hamas, ordered civilians to leave the western side of the city, where 3 of the last few functioning hospitals in Gaza are located, and where thousands of people had taken shelter. Another 800 were sheltering in a UN vocational training center, hit, according to the UN, by 2 Israeli tank rounds.
The reality is that these strikes are hitting protected installations, protected facilities. They're hitting facilities that are housing, sheltering civilians, or where you have medical personnel tending to people who are wounded and injured and sick.
This man managed to escape Khan Yunis under shelling. He asks his children, "Have you eaten today?" "No," they respond. Hovering over the agony of this war is the specter of famine, warns Michael Fakhri, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to food. How would you describe the food situation in Gaza at the moment?
Every single person in Gaza is hungry. So that means 2.2 million people are going hungry. A quarter of the population are starving. They're struggling to find food and drinkable water. And famine is imminent.
Since October, Gaza has become a land of nomads, moving from place to place, desperate as the war moves further south. For more than 100 days, I've been in the streets, says Mohammed. We don't know where to go. They say it's safe in one place, and then it's dangerous with shelling and shooting. We go to another place, and it's the same thing. Hundreds of thousands have fled to, and more are fleeing every day, to Rafah on the Egyptian border, now crammed with more than 1 million displaced. There are a few spots left in the sand. The only place after that is the sea.
The Advocate Channel looks at the world through the lens of equality, community, hope, and inclusion. AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
As the Red Sea crisis forces cargo vessels to find alternative shipping routes, environmental threats are limiting the use of the Panama Canal, creating a complicated situation for maritime trade. A severe ongoing drought is causing dangerously low water levels in the canal. Some ocean carriers had chosen to reroute through the Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, before Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in that region escalated. But now many ships can't rely on either waterway, leading to shipping delays and price hikes.
We have been forced to decrease by 24 vessels a day from the usual 36 or 38 in order to guarantee 44 feet depth, and we will keep this number of vessels until the end of the summer.
The 80-kilometer shipping route connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, but uses fresh water from surrounding lakes to fill its many locks. The U.S., China, and Japan frequent the waterway for maritime trade. But an unfavorable combination of El Nino and global warming is hurting the Panama Canal like never before, Espino says. 2023 was the second driest year for the waterway in its 110-year history. Water use mitigation efforts, including treatment plants and saving tanks, have proven not to be enough. El Nino now projected to persist until sometime between April and June, according to the National Weather Service.
We are realizing that in a very, very dry year, these measures are not enough, so we have to look for an additional solution.
One idea, a dam on Rio Indio that would need approval from a government that's now in an election year. A plan that would impact more than 2,000 Rio Indio residents. As a temporary solution, global shipping giant Maersk is using rail transport for some shipments to reduce its footprint through the water route. But until drought no longer plagues the Panama Canal and violence eases in the Red Sea, this perfect storm of maritime trouble has global manufacturers and shipping companies at an impasse.
The AVIC channel is now streaming live on Amazon Prime in the News app. Watch us there or go to theadvocatechannel.com. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
Emotional testimony from victims and witnesses retelling the terrifying moments shooter Ethan Crumbley opened fire at Oxford High School in November of 2021.
I looked down and I realized he was raising a gun to me.
4 students were killed. Molly Darnell was one of the 7 people wounded when Crumbley opened fire.
I had texted my husband, "I love you, active shooter." And then I started feeling blood dripping down my arm.
Thursday was opening statements in the trial, not against Ethan, but against his mother, Jennifer Crumbley, who prosecutors argue ignored all red flags before her son went on a deadly rampage. She's facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
Jennifer Crumbley didn't pull the trigger that day, but she is responsible for those deaths.
The prosecution showed the jury a drawing Ethan made before the shooting of a person bleeding, a gun, and a message that says, "My life is useless." Concerned school administrators met with both Ethan's parents to discuss the drawing. Prosecutors say Jennifer Crumbley failed to notify the school that her son had access to a gun they bought him 4 days earlier.
Despite her knowledge of his growing social isolation, despite the fact that it is illegal for a 15-year-old to walk into a gun store and walk out with a handgun by himself.
The defense arguing she was not responsible for what her son did.
The evidence at trial is going to show you that Jennifer Crumbley did the best she could as a mother to a child who grew up into a teenager and had no way to know what was going to happen.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
The AVIC channel is your news source for news, entertainment, and trending stories. We're highlighting the advocates in our community. We have now arrived at our number 1 story of the day. Take a look.
And South Carolina is better because we have Nikki Haley as our governor.
You're going to see the U.S. Senate become stronger because of the results of Tim Scott.
What a difference a dozen years can make.
I'm not campaigning against Nikki. I'm campaigning for the future of America.
Obviously disappointed, but look, he's got to live with his decisions.
At the center of this South Carolina split, Donald Trump.
And just a little note to Nikki, she's not going to win.
Standing behind the former president, the man who Haley elevated to the U.S. Senate. Trump pointing to that history to attack his last remaining rival.
I mean, did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
Scott's endorsement of Trump marking a turning point in his and Haley's long history.
I am appointing our next U.S. Senator to be Congressman Tim Scott.
As governor in 2012, Haley chose Scott to fill the state's vacant Senate seat, making him the first black senator from the South since Reconstruction.
He earned this seat for the person that he is.
Back then, Scott effusively praised Haley as a leader.
I can see with clarity the conviction and the integrity and the character that you govern with.
But Scott insists that his backing of Trump is not a betrayal, noting Haley's own history with Trump.
Let's not forget that President Trump appointed Nikki Haley to be an ambassador, so she's certainly campaigning against him.
But will a new alliance?
It is time for the Republican Party to coalesce around our nominee and the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Spoil Haley's shot in South Carolina.
South Carolina is a blood sport, and I have dealt with the old guard and the fellas for a long time.
Despite Haley being twice elected governor of the Palmetto State, she approaches next month's primary as the underdog against Trump. Voters we spoke with here seeming to give Scott the benefit of the doubt with his decision to pick Trump over Haley.
To me, it doesn't show that he's necessarily stabbing her in the back as much as he's following what he believes to be the right course of action.
I think it shows that Tim Scott kind of doesn't trust Haley. She appointed him, and he still isn't picking her. So maybe he knows things we don't.
That's today's countdown. Download the Advocate Channel app on your phone or smart TV. We're also one of Fire TV's newest free live news channels. There's more news and entertainment coming up after the break.